a day. StemMedical identifies stem cells in fat tissue to be used in innovative ways for surgery in aesthetic and reconstructive purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Klaus Langhoff-Bruus. I'm the CEO of StemMedical, and we are a bunch of stem cell biologists, of surgeons, as well as regulatory experts, engineers, and even some commercial experts that have managed to overcome the three barriers that we see to have brought stem cell-based therapies to patients. And if we're looking at the company itself, the three barriers are, first of all, being able to show not only that in mouse models stem cells work, but also in clinical, real human data. Secondly, to be able to produce stem cells at scale and do so cost effectively. And thirdly, to be able to get a regulatory cleared product to market. Now, the company itself, we have a cell platform, and from that cell platform, we are able to go directly into surgical applications where we have regulatory clearance in Northern Europe and have pilot launch in Denmark with good commercial results. Second, for the therapeutic application, we're going into first human dose as of this year with a major university hospital. Now, where did it all start? Well, the unmet need that we're trying to fulfill, and sorry for the graphic images here, is the founder being a reconstructive surgeon, having these patients come into the clinic and not being able to have a versatile and predictable filler to actually help these patients with reconstruction. So we decided to start with healthy patients in the beginning. And for healthy patients, there are plenty of those in plastic surgery because those are the ones that are going after cosmetic surgery. And the largest opportunity, obviously, is within breast reconstruction or breast cosmetic surgery, where around 1.7 million patients in EU and US do it every year. So what are the options if you want to have a breast augmentation today? Well, it's the same thing as 40 years ago. And that's either, on the left-hand side, an implant, which comes with the benefit of being effective, but with the side effects of capsular contraction, as you can see from this picture, cancer risk, as well as implant-related illnesses. There is a natural alternative, which is fat grafting. The problem with fat grafting is that there's only 20 to 80% of the graft that survives, so huge variation, as well as you can see here, not satisfying results when you see the three pictures. The 1 hour post-op looks great, but subsequently 4 months post-op, the graft has died. So what's our secret sauce to alleviate this? Well, our secret sauce is, let's see if we can make this work. If I can have the next slide, please. There we go. Is to enrich the graft with adipose-derived stem cells. So in practice, it works like this. A patient comes into a clinic, does a minor liposuction, send that to our lab. For 14 days, we culture, isolate the adipose-derived stem cells, and we culture them, get it to 12 to 18 billion cells, send them back to the clinic. The physician does a minor procedure which takes around 5 minutes out of a 3.5-hour fat transfer procedure where they infuse the cells in the fat graft and inject it either for cosmetic surgery purposes, reconstructive purposes, or in osteoarthritis of the knee. It's all the same platform for these different procedures. And with that, we are having a graft survival. How well does it then work? Well, if we look at the next slide, there we go. We have an 80% graft survival just by putting in the adipose-derived stem cells into the graft. And when we look at our real-world data, we're up to 100%. So in essence, we're looking at a 5-minute intervention by a surgical physician that in a 3.5-hour procedure that takes the graft survival from around 45% in conventional lipofilling to 80% and 100% in real-world patients. So that's the clinical evidence generated in humans. We published it in The Lancet to start with and subsequently in Stem Cell Translational Medicine. Now, you may ask, if I can have the next slide here. There we go. Is this safe? The good thing about mesenchymal stem cells having been around for a long time is that there's ample safety data generated with 10,000 patients, 1,300 trials with a benign safety profile. The same thing holds true for fat transfers, where there's benign and minor side effects that are transient, such as bruising and swelling. We've treated 50 patients and have had so far no adverse events of serious nature related to the treatment itself. So in sum, when we're looking at stem form, And summing it up versus the alternatives, it has only benefits, if you will. It's natural, it has the desired volume, it has no scars, it has low complication risk, it has lower downtime than alternatives, it requires only one surgery, and it doesn't require replacement. The downside is, of course, that the cost is higher to do this procedure. And you may ask, so is there a market for this? So what we did, of course, was to commercialize in Denmark to see are there patients there, and the answer is yes. We also did a market research here in the UK, and where we put these three alternatives in front of patients and asked them, which procedure do you prefer? And invariably, at least 2/3, if not 3/4, would prefer stem foam over the alternatives. When then shown the prices that you see here, still 25% were willing to pay to get a stem foam procedure as opposed to one of the alternatives. So we're looking for a quarter of the plastic surgery breast augmentation market, if you will. Who are the patients who really want this? What we've learned from our pilot is, first of all, that it's patients who come in for an implant replacement because they have either capsular contracture or implant-related illnesses. That's half the patients. The other half are typically patients that don't have enough fat to do a number of fat transfer procedures to be able to get a satisfactory results. So these are the two sort of key patient types that we're looking at. When we're then looking at how we are able to scale this, this is where we're seeing that we need to be able to produce at scale, and we need to do that cost effectively. We started out in 22 cell stacks in incubators to produce the 12 to 18 billion cells. We have managed, through pretty hard work, to get it into a single bioreactor per patient with a controller. All of this is built with off-the-shelf equipment and can produce now at positive gross margin a treatment for patients for breast augmentation. Our next step is to industrialize the production, where we have a controller that is, of course, enormously cost efficient, as well as bioreactors, and driving down the cost of the media, which we're targeting around a 70% gross margin with the current prices that you saw. Now, with that, where are we able to go? So, in the EU, we're governed under the Tissue and Cell Directive, and the implementation is not harmonized. So it means we need regulatory dialogues with individual countries. And a small company as we are, we have focused on Northern Europe to start with, and have had regulatory interactions subsequently with the ones you see in green here, where they have cleared it under the Tissue and Cell Directive, and we're able to launch, done so in Denmark, and now rolling out in Northern Europe. We'll have to do more trials to get to the US. We have additional, of course, opportunities in Latin America and Asia and the Middle East. Clearly, the market for a natural either breast augmentation or implant replacement is really, really large. Next market coming up after summer is here in the UK. But how big is really the opportunity for the breast augmentation or implant replacement? So if we're just looking at the basic business model of how we actually operate. So first of all, what we managed to do in Denmark is to test out how this actually works. First of all, we are pursuing a direct sales model where we are selling the cells directly to the clinic, and the clinic sells out of pocket to the patient. Now, the two key elements that we are focused on is making sure that we have very satisfied patients, and the second one is that the hospitals and clinics, they have a very profitable procedure. We need them to be on board with this. That we have managed, and I think more importantly, we managed to overcome all sort of the practical complications of bringing an autologous cell therapy to patients, being that of a regulatory clearance, quality system integration, training and onboarding of clinics, and SOPs that need to be standardized. All of this done. If we're then looking at the scale of this, well, we're tapping into a market with around 3 million annual procedures, notwithstanding all the implants that are already out there where some people will want to change them. When we're looking at those more than 3 million, 1.7 million of those annual procedures are in US and EU, which is where we have our business case made, and we're targeting just 1% of those by 2030, generating a revenue of around 200 million euros. So that's sort of the basic assumption of the stem foam business case. Now, this doesn't take into account where we all started, which is the unmet need of reconstructive surgery. Why did we start in cosmetic surgery? Well, it's because we want to go after healthy patients to generate a safety package and safety profile that allows us to go into, for example, post-mastectomy patients. We need the safety package to be able to do that. What we have been able to, with de-risking the platform and being able to scale it, in discussion with the Danish MPA, is to go directly into therapeutic applications of the platform. And the ones that we have targeted is the one that biologically seems most plausible and makes most sense, which is that of osteoarthritis of the knee. So there's really 4 reasons for it. There's good scientific evidence of using mesenchymal cells and fat in treating osteoarthritis of the knee. There's strong fit with the platform that you have just seen. There's a high unmet need. There's around 9% of us who are going to get osteoarthritis of the knee, so that's massive. Secondly, we also know that there's only symptomatic treatment so far, and there's no disease-modifying treatment, and there is a real big need for that. Lastly, it's highly attractive in market size. There's as many million patients with osteoarthritis of the knee as there are days in the year, so 365 million. In terms of clinical evidence for this, what you see here on the left-hand side is that when you infuse mesenchymal cells alone into the knee, there's clinically significant and dose-dependent response of an intra-articular ejection. And what you see here is, of course, both it's clinically meaningful according to the WOMAC score, which is a pain and function score, as well as a dose dependency. On the right-hand side, you see what happens when you inject fat alone into the knee. And you'll also see here, though this is not placebo-controlled, that pre-post, there's substantial improvement on the COS score, which is the same as the WOMAC score, just with quality of life added to it. Both are clinically meaningful. So dose dependency on the mesenchymal sides, they both seem to work. Our platform, of course, is the combination of those two, as you just saw from the previous presentation. And what we can do, since we're so good at producing stem cells at scale cost effectively, is we can go in with a much higher dose than all of the other competitors out there that are going in with a maximum of 100 million cells into the knee, where we're going in with 1.6 billion cells into the knee. And co-administering that with fat. And again, the rationale is not just that these are complementary in effect, but also that the fat creates a microenvironment from under which the mesenchymal cells are more likely to survive longer and sustain their anti-inflammatory effect in the knee. So that is, in essence, the company. And why are we then here at LSX? Well, we are raising a Series B, 15 to 18 million to fund our key milestones, and 90% of that is really the commercial rollout in Europe of the STEM form, if you will, arm. And 10% is the phase 1 study in osteoarthritis of the knee with a major university hospital. Of the 15, 18 million, we have raised half with a major Danish venture capital company, and we're looking for the other half with a number of life science investors. In terms of exits, if you're interested in that, obviously it's from 25 onwards, where there's both 2 arms where you can both look at the stem form arm in terms of an IPO, if you will, and the osteoarthritis arm in terms of a sell-off to a major pharmaceutical company. I'd like to end with showing the team who's behind this, and as I said, it's a really cool bunch of stem cell biologists, immunologists, plastic surgeons, engineers, regulatory experts, and a few commercial people as well, to really are able to bring this onwards to patients. And we are guided by a really appreciative board of a chair by an ex-Lundbeck CCO, his name is Stig, and then we have a couple of life sciences strategic advisors that are really good. So Thomas Ebeling, the former CEO of Novartis, is one of them, Andreas Rommelt, former CEO of Sandoz, another, and of course clinical advisors are key for us. So with the presentation, I hope that you got a feeling of how we have been able to overcome what I've been working at Novo for many years and seen as the 3 big barriers to getting cell therapies or stem cell-based therapies to patients. That is, showing clinical evidence, which we've done in the Lancet. Second, producing at scale and cost effectively, which we can do with a positive contribution margin. And thirdly, getting a product regulatory cleared, which we have already done in Northern Europe and commercialized in Denmark. So that was it. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for just one question, if anyone has one. Otherwise, thank you for a fantastic presentation. It's great to see so many logos that we all recognize on screen. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time today, for listening to these amazing startups that presented, and we look forward to hearing more from you.